FOS TV is brought to you by the Lion's Den. The Den always has been and always will be about enjoying family and friends in an environment steeped in Happy Valley tradition. So come back to the Den, the perfect place to recall old memories while creating new ones.
As far as Saturday goes, Saturday is about football, a great college football game between really two solid, really good football teams, and that's what Saturday's about. But then as we move forward, we've got to continue the mission of good student athletes that graduate that are involved in the community.
Mark Brennan of Fight on State here with Greg Pickel joining us for the first Bill O'Brien press conference wrap. In the past, we've done Joe Paterno wraps, a couple of Tom Bradley wraps, a new era, so we're going to start wrapping up the Bill O'Brien press conferences. Glad to welcome Greg Pickel, who's done a lot of recruiting work for us and is going to help out doing some football stuff as well. So nice to have you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, but nice to be here.
Yeah, so real quick, I don't know that there was a whole lot of breaking news that necessarily came out of Bill O'Brien's first press conference. A lot of the talk was focused on, this whole thing moving forward, some names on the backs of the jerseys. But in terms of hard football news, what were some of the things that maybe jumped out to you, injury-wise, different positions, that sort of thing?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a lot. Jake Fagnano will play Saturday. That was sort of known going in, but the clarification is nice. I think something that really jumped out in terms of hard football news was the offensive line. The fact that Penn State will play 8 to 10 players a game potentially, and Bill O'Brien hit on that. He said that you might take 6 or 7 with you on an NFL game, and they plan on doing the same thing here, not just playing 5 guys. We'll have an offensive line rotation.
Yeah, we're here in Beaver Stadium, and they're actually, I think they're, what are they doing? They have snow blowers out there or something?
Blowers,
yeah, they're cleaning some stuff up. I think our microphones are going to be good enough, but we're actually standing here in the end zone. You can see the scoreboard behind us. Another thing that jumped out to me a little bit, Pete Massaro had been held out of practice, defensive end, with some lingering knee problems from the ACL surgery he had. Bill O'Brien said he will play, but they're going to monitor him very closely. I think they're okay there. I mean, you have Deion Barnes, you have Anthony Zettel, guys who can really step up and get things done. A lot of times, some of the more, I don't want to say, some of the more interesting stuff comes from the player interviews afterward. And Gerald Hodges actually said that Naeem Wortman is running with the second team at linebacker. Now, he's a true freshman from up in the Cole region, and he was listed as a third-teamer, but we got the breaking news that here Naeem Wortman is running with the second team, and that's another thing that Bill O'Brien talked about. There are 12, I think it is, a dozen true freshmen who are on that depth chart, and these guys are going to play.
Yeah, he had made note of that earlier when he was asked that if they're on the depth chart, they're expected to contribute positively if they get into a game. And like you said, there's 12 freshmen. Trevor Williams was another guy he really spoke highly of in that receiving corps. I think you'll see a lot of him, and he said that he hopes to see something positive out of Williams Saturday, so I have to think he'll be on the field quite a bit.
Yeah, when you talk about the number of offensive linemen they intend to use, he also went into great detail about a lot of the wide receivers. I mean, mentioning guys like Alex Kenny, the Williams kid. They're going to play. Allen Robinson, everybody's talking about. So they're going to play a lot of wideouts, and they're going to move people around doing a lot of different things. I'm really anxious to see, he was kind of asked, people were trying to pigeonhole him or kind of back him into a corner about what we're going to see offensively. And this guy's obviously been around the block. He was having none of it. He said, hey, if we have to throw the ball 40 times, we'll throw it, or however many times. If we have to run it that many times, we're going to run it. My guess is they're going to look for to strike a balance, because really that's what they're going to need to be successful this year.
Right, absolutely. And if you watch any Patriots film, which of course has been the general theme of questions of players so far this offseason, you'll see that, like O'Brien noted, they don't have one set guy they go to. If you think of New England, I'd have a hard time picking out one guy that was their set receiver. And the same thing in the backfield. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis was sort of their go-to guy there for a bit, but in the backfield they were the same way. They use a lot of guys, they rotate a lot of players, and when you do that, you don't exactly have an option but to do anything but strike a balance, because you have so many options that you can go to. So I think you're right. I think they will strike a balance. He said if they have to run it 60 or pass it 60 times, they will. I don't think they will against Ohio, frankly, but it's something that I could see them being able to do because of the flexibility their offense gives them.
Yeah, something else that jumped out to me a little bit yesterday, I think it jumped out to a lot of people, was on the depth chart at quarterback. Matt McGloin, obviously number 1. I mean, there's no question about that. And then we had the old Paul Jones or true freshman Stephen Bench. Today at the press conference, Bill O'Brien was definitive that Paul Jones is their number 2 quarterback. But I mean, he clearly is trying to send a message that Paul Jones has to pick it up because, you know, the things he talked about, he said Stephen Bench has come in here, specifically mentioned that he's a coach's kid from Georgia, really has picked things up quickly, and to me that's kind of a thinly veiled, hey, Paul Jones, you better start picking some things up.
Yeah, a lot of our readers have picked up on that, the idea that maybe it's a set of fire under Paul Jones to get back into the swing of things and to really take things seriously. But while O'Brien did solidify the fact that Jones will be the backup and this number 2 quarterback, I think he definitely left a lot of wiggle room there for Stephen Bench to see some time as well. He seems like a very smart kid. You know, he has that very dry Southern accent that a lot of people will start to recognize if, you know, he gets on the field. But yeah, he left a lot of leeway there, I think, for Bench to see some considerable time if Jones is having trouble picking up the offense, if he's just not a right fit for the system, whatever it may be. While he left no question Jones was the backup, I think Stephen Bench is probably a lot closer to that role than maybe some would think.
Now, we're not going to focus on this all season, but clearly I think, you know, the first one, I think we have to kind of compare the way that these things went with Joe Paterno as opposed to with the new regime here. Bill O'Brien shows up, jogging suit, kind of sweat. What do they call those things?
Yeah, sweatsuit. Yeah,
kind of in a sweatsuit. He wasn't short in his answers. He was very direct. If he didn't want to answer anything, he didn't. The telephone portion of it, which used to take, boy, it used to seem to stretch on forever, I think was over in like 12 or 13 minutes. And then they're all of a sudden into questions in the media room. So you talk about a much faster pace on the field. There was definitely a much faster pace to the interviews.
Absolutely, yeah. It was certainly a lot quicker, and O'Brien didn't really dance around things. It was either yes or no if he didn't really want to elaborate on it, or he did go right into it and elaborate on it. You know, it got a little tricky with questions about what kind of offense he would run, how often, have they scripted any of their offense. He didn't really want to get into any of that stuff, but he was very direct, and he was pretty much like we've seen him all along since he's took over this Penn State job. He'll answer as many questions. You know, he doesn't cut things short. He doesn't give you short answers unless he doesn't want to. But overall, yeah, I think it was very different just in the sense of the way O'Brien handled it as opposed to Joe Paterno.
Yeah, and if you've seen somebody walking around behind us, they're actually doing the painting in the end zone. And I can't really show you right now, but it looks pretty much the same as it's always been. I think for anybody expecting changes in the end zones or anything like that, you're not going to see it. Listen, there were people from USA Today, ESPN, a lot of national media folks here, a lot pushing things that have been well discussed on the Fight on State forums. But, you know, kind of one of the themes that kind of, I don't want to say it jumped out at me, that I thought made a lot of sense is that there are going to be a lot of eyes on this game, right, for a lot of different reasons. And how, you know, I asked him specifically, how important is it to just go out and play well? Right. And he, you know, he was really not going into the whole, he did spend some time on the healing and whatnot, but specifically with the game, he just talked about, hey, it's important to go out and play good fundamental football, not make mistakes. And I think these guys are just so anxious to get into that football mode that I think that's going to be a big part of the whole moving on. Just get out there and play football and have fun, but I do think it's important that they do well too. Right,
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You could see O'Brien's face sort of get a little agitated as questions not necessarily football related were continued to be asked. And the key, he said all along, he said it since he started, he said it after the blue-white game, and he said it again today. We can't turn the ball over, we can't commit penalties at the line of scrimmage, we can't go 3 and out, you know, again and again and again. And I think one of the biggest things, you're right, Mark, with moving forward is it has to start right away. And one of the things that, you know, we talked about in the season preview was that a good start's kind of big against Ohio, simply because once you get the crowd out of it, you go 3 and out a couple times, I think you start to lose some of that momentum. There's no doubt that this stadium is going to be arguably as energetic as it's been in a while, and I think that the key will be keeping that momentum going once the first, you know, 10-15 minutes are off the board. But you're right, he really talked about moving forward through play, and he sort of not so much through the community. He made a point of helping the community move forward, not leading the community. I think that's the first time we've heard him say that. But yes, the play on the field is what he wants to see move things forward starting right away at noon on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, and I don't know about you out there, but I'm ready for some football. And you can see here in Beaver Stadium that they're getting everything ready for this weekend's big game. I'm just again, I can't wait for this team to get out here, play some football, start covering some football. And I'm not talking about moving on because there's still going to be a lot of things that we have to discuss as this unfolds. But it's been a long off season, right, and I'm anxious just for everything to get going. Don't be hating on us for wearing these cool matching shirts either, all you fools out there, because I don't know, that just happened somehow. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up. It's our first Bill O'Brien post-PC wrap of the year. I'm with Greg Pickel. Greg, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mark.
And for Fight on State, I'm Mark Brennan. Be sure to join us next week.